Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Life from the Inside Out with Kris. Before we begin with Kris's unparalleled metaphysical content, I know that many of you watching have felt a sense of being ungrounded, unhinged, or out of balance in these times. I know, I felt this way too. Kris's teachings have similarities to popular ideas such as the law of attraction and the secret. The difference is that Kris's knowledge goes even deeper into reality creation and helps resolve many of the problems identified with the law of attraction. The information he shares helps restore grounding and that sense of balance that many of us have lost in these times. If you're ready for the law of attraction and secret 2.0 and want to be a part of this fantastic community, then hit that like button, subscribe, drop a comment below, and press the bell icon so that you get notified when Kris releases cool, new metaphysical content. Kris also offers life-changing online seminars, private sessions, and mentoring sessions, which are all linked in the description below. Glad you're here with us, and let's jump into it. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Life from the Inside Out with Kris, and today we're here with Serge. And last time we had a panel of friends and students of Kris and talked a little bit about the world and is the world going bananas and how to understand some of the changes that we're going through. And Kris offered a few techniques, practical techniques, in order to change certain elements of ourselves that we want to address. And really curious where we'll go today, Serge.
Thank you, and welcome back, everyone. And Dan, nice to see you again. And yeah, Kris has some more stuff up his invisible sleeve, or psychological sleeve, I guess.
I like that. Well, yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add today. And anything else coming up for you, or you want to jump right in?
Yeah, might as well go for a dive.
All right. Sounds good.
Now, we trust that you are comfortable.
Oh, very comfortable, Kris. Thank you.
Indeed, and we thank you for your consideration.
Oh, thanks for yours as well.
Indeed, we have many more things to say, especially about the world apparently going bananas. The idea in and of itself is not so much that the world is going bananas, even though it may look at this point as if this is the only thing that is happening, as if somehow or other it is going to hell in a handbasket. Everything seems to be topsy-turvy. People appear frustrated, impatient, really intolerant of even the slightest inconveniences at this point. And there is a very good approach to bring some light onto this issue. And it does have to do with you, with the person, the individual. Not so much that you as a person are going bananas, though if you do, we have no objections. You can go bananas or ape anytime. But suffice it to say that your own deepest psychology, your own deepest views, your own core is, in a way, trying to communicate to you through external means that you truly do need to pay attention to your own inner workings, to your own feelings, to your own emotions, your own imagination, to the belief systems that you are juggling that might indeed have become past due, a time to renovate, if you like, rebuild this inner architecture that is your internal world, your map of the world, is likely indeed of a reassessment. So your external conditions reflect what you need to pay attention to. It is not only that the external world is a reflection of your minds and your feelings and so on and so forth, but it especially is strongly directed at bringing to your attention what you need to deal with, what you need to look at more carefully, and quite likely remove or reduce or get rid of excess baggage. And that excess baggage are likely emotional states and feeling states, belief structures, outdated ideas that no longer serve you as a person. Especially when people, and right now we will direct this at men, as they get to 35, 38, 40 and on. Women perhaps a little later, and this by no means is an exact number. This is an approximation. But the main point is at certain stage in life, at around that stage in life, many of the ideas that people have held concerning themselves, their world, seem to come apart at the seams, become undone. And people begin to question their validity, begin to question their legitimacy as a person. So there is this questioning of the legitimacy of their lives, the authenticity, the genuineness of whom and what they are. So people go through midlife crises.
Mm-hmm.
Some feel disoriented, unmoored, perhaps in a slightly different and yet a much more intensely personal way, because now it is affecting them directly. So people begin to question the systems they have been brought in, begin to question the views of the world and the ideas about the world that they have accepted from others, which may be part of this baggage that people need to put to the curb, to dispense with, lighten the load, so to speak. So this idea of being legitimate, am I legitimate? Am I a real person? Means, am I really true to myself? People may have had ideas, impulses, strong desires to go in a particular direction in life, and instead they're not about face and went somewhere else. Sometimes only to discover that they really do not like where they are at now, nor do they like what they have become as a result. It has altered or modified the topography of their internal landscape. They have had to make concessions in the ideas of who and what they are. And they begin to question their life choices. They begin to question, what has happened to my life? Where has my life gone? What can I do about this? Some people may find themselves in an increasingly difficult work situation. Perhaps they want to do something at their work, their place of employment, and find that they cannot seem to make any headways. Perhaps they have employers who are deaf to their ideas. They might even have increasing other difficulties with their coworkers. Their work may no longer satisfy them. but they have nothing else to fall back on. And often this leads to a kind of identity crisis. Again, am I true to myself? Am I legitimately who I want to be? Or have I accepted ideas and notions from other people, from family and friends, though perhaps well-meaning, that do not really suit me? What do I do about that? How can I find my own self, my own path? So this can create a kind of struggle, and it usually does, because society does not really offer, your education systems do not offer particular information about this stage of human life. Oh, certainly you can go to the therapist, and sometimes it is helpful, and other times it may not be. So this brings into question, again, who am I? What have I become compared to what I have always wanted to be, or the who I always wanted to be? What is my unconditioned self? In Sanskrit, layers of conditioning are referred to as koshas, and people wear them like so many shirts, one on top of the other. Different layers of conditioning. And again, these are pooled from family units, friends, environment, society, work environments, so-called authorities that may seem to know better. And eventually, all of these ideas may clash with the sense of who you are, and you may begin to rebel against these, almost as if you are returning to a teenager state. A teenager begins the process of individuation, so rebels against the parents, the family unit, wants to explore the world on their own. This is how they try to define themselves. And along the way, they accept all sorts of ideas, some of which in the long run out of steam, do not produce any more fire. So the individual feels less and less motivated, and again begins this process of questioning the authenticity, the legitimacy of their lives and what they have become. And that leads to all sorts of other questions, all along those very same lines. Now, there are many self-help books, there are many therapies available. Some of them are excellent, some perhaps are best left alone. We will not necessarily say which is good and which is not. It is not our place. But what we will offer is that there is a core idea about yourself. And it is very strong, it is very powerful, it is very potent. Everyone wants to burn bright, to light the sky with their energy, with their exuberance, their effervescence. Everyone wants to enjoy life, wants to be happy. But along the way, more and more things have made such an individual less and less happy. And people want to return to that state. So one excellent method is to begin to very conscientiously, mindfully evaluate what you have accepted in life as who you should be, how you should behave, how you should think, what you should say. And this is a process everyone goes through in one form or another. When one gets to that point in life, becomes important to recognize where all that information has been gathered, where you have gathered this info. And as you recognize and become conscious of this, you can begin to create a new kind of idea about yourself. And that too is very important. So along the way, as a child, as you were growing up, you might have been told that perhaps you were not intelligent enough, perhaps you were not this, you were not that. Do not do this, do not do that. Only do what we tell you. Do not do what we do. And here you can begin to take apart this straw man or woman that you have created for yourself. And very nicely search for a new and potent idea about yourself. So you may have been told that you were not any way, shape or form sufficiently artistic, but you may have always wanted to draw or to paint or to sculpt. Perhaps you were even told no one makes any money at that until after their death, so do not bother wasting your time. So if you feel somewhat inclined in that direction, then by all means begin to explore arts and crafts, groups and classes. Dive into it, not feet first, test the waters. See how you fit in with this idea that you may have refused or submerged for decades. Perhaps you do like to draw, perhaps you do like to paint, perhaps you would like to work with clay or sculpt. So test the waters, find what suits you, and begin to experience this portion of yourself. You will not be transforming yourself overnight. It must be done in increments, very nicely. But you will begin to sense that this process actually is very good for you. Perhaps you have always wanted to write. How many people actually do, even as a youth, have ideas that they would like to write? And many just squash that idea because they've been told they would be better playing in football or baseball or such great things. And if you feel dissatisfied and at the same time still drawn to that idea, then by all means, please explore writing classes. Whether it is at a community college or at a university, whatever it is that draws you. And we are certain there are plenty of tutorials on YouTube or on the internet, classes you can take remotely or in person. Test the waters. Perhaps you have always desired to create music, but you were perhaps induced to study and become a doctor or an accountant or something of that nature. And if you are dissatisfied in one way or another, or you recognize there are so many roadblocks to moving forward in your profession, and the idea starts to come back to you, by all means, even if you are 40 or 50 years old, take music lessons. If you wanted to play the piano or the violin or the harp or the flute or the guitar or drums, by all means, Give yourself a little bit of confidence and explore the subject matter. Not everyone becomes an overnight sensation as a child prodigy when they are 5 or 6 years old. Some may come out later in life, 30, 40, 50 years. There are many people who have really made a success of their lives at 30, 40, 50, 60, even 70 years of age and more, because they discovered that there was sufficient fire, not just a tiny spark now, but a sufficient fire in their being to actually pursue what they dared not before. And they have blossomed as an individual. Parts of their personality that had been suppressed perhaps for ages now comes to the surface, and they find great peace of mind and excitement at the adventures life is offering them at this point, things they had never thought possible before. So there are many, many things that you can explore to find fulfillment. The idea is not to stay behind closed doors, shut the world out, and bemoan your sorry state, worrying about what is going to happen to you now. That will not bring about any resolution, but simply sink you deeper into the mud, so to speak. You are all familiar with the lotus flower. The lotus flower starts deep in the mud of the lake. That is its origin. It grows its roots deep into the bottom of the mud and sends a shoot up through the waters to pierce the surface, where then the bud will appear to eventually open up and blossom into the beautiful lotus flower. That is its legitimate self. It does not sit there at the bottom of the lake feeling perhaps sorry or indignant at its fate at having to take root in such a messy environment. It literally rises above its challenge to pierce the top of the water, to be in the open air where it gets the light and the sun to produce the beautiful flower. So everyone, in a sense, can be just like a lotus flower. Regardless of where you are at, you must start at some point in your life and grow into the person you envision yourself to be. If you have always had this little idea, again, that perhaps you would like to create music or play music or write, by all means, do not just sit there feeling sorry that you never were able to go there. Get up and look on the internet, make phone calls, find ways to start developing and exploring the subject matter. If, for instance, you are finding that your place of work seems to create blockages, is it your place of work that is creating blockages? Or is that something within you that says, hey, look at here. You have been here for so long, you have made great stride, but now you can't seem to get forward anymore because your ideas are not necessarily being received with open arms. Our suggestion is that your own inner self, if you want to call it your unconscious or your subconscious, it does not matter. But there is definitely a push to have you mindfully recognize that perhaps this is no longer exactly where you need to be. So begin to take conscious introspection, some mindfulness on that issue, and see what else the universe can offer you. What kind of other doors can you open? And if you have to, what kind of other doors can you bust down and cross that threshold to actually blossom into the fullness of your personality? Otherwise, you will always live with a certain degree of regrets. And over time, regrets become very bitter. They do not lead to your creativity. And we have suggested before, in spite of all the worldviews that people hold, there is an intrinsic, inherent worldview that is the base or the foundation of existence, and that is love, creativity, and collaborativeness or collaboration. Creativity, right there and then, right there, creativity. You are all endowed with an incredible amount of creativity. So much so, you do not even recognize how that creativity is literally creating the world of your experience. Because your experience is your reality. And this alone can literally set you on fire if you tune into it with your own best interest at heart. So, someone in your past might have told you, you're simply not good enough for anything. If you have accepted that idea, you will see it reflected all around you, all your life, until you decide, hey, who decided I was not good enough, them or me? If you find yourself in that quandary, the answer is you. You have accepted that as a truth. If you have accepted that idea, you can also accept another idea, that you are good enough. Not only that, you are good enough at anything you desire. Putting this small set of suggestions into effect can have a powerful influence into your days and months and years to come. But there is only one person who can do that. We cannot do it for you. No one else in the universe can do it for you but your lovely, creative, and powerful self. And that is this very, very thing. You are at the center of your universe. There's no one else there. Mind you, the very idea of yourself alone creates a kind of Pandora's box. Exactly what is yourself? So that may be for another discussion. So we will take a little break here.
Yeah, sounds good, Kris. That was some powerful stuff. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to leave a question for Kris, drop it in the comments below. Myself, Serge, or someone from the Kris team will be checking these. We're going to use them to drive the discussion and also put them into future episodes. So if you want to interact with Kris and the Kris community, feel free. Put your questions below, and we'd like to see you here again next time. Thanks.